Barking up the wrong tree. New tonight, the former prime minister is on the defense over his government's handling of the food program.
Coming up, what you can expect from the Department of Inland Revenue in what they're calling the season of enforcement.
Plus, the crackdown on work permits, as 56 foreigners found on a construction site said to be operating outside their scope. The immigration minister speaks. And then in our news at 7:30, the meeting the prime minister is planning with members of the opposition in Haiti as its humanitarian crisis continues. Our news live at 7 starts now. Welcome to Our News Live at 7. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Megan Shepard. The billion-dollar tax arrears at Inland Revenue is said to be coming down as the officials are reporting a slight dip in the numbers. We've got the latest figures in about 2 minutes. But now to this, as former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis breaking his silence today over being questioned about the food assistance program. Dr. Minnis insists his government did nothing wrong and says the Prime Minister is barking up the wrong tree. Bethany McDermott reports.
My hands are more than clean. My hands are more than clean. I think, and I've said it before, I think the Prime Minister, when he questioned me, he barking up the wrong tree. He barking up the wrong tree. And he knows that. And he do not want this giant or this gorilla to come forth.
That was the former Prime Minister's response when asked if he and his administration's hands are clean regarding the handling of the National Food Distribution Task Force. Dr. Minnis says 3 senior officers interviewed him for over an hour. He says the police gave him the option to be questioned at the police station or at a neutral location, and he chose a neutral location with his lawyer. Minnis believes the government is targeting them.
This is more than a witch hunt. The government knows that they are mismanaging this country. They know that crime is out of control. They know that they have gone overboard in terms of taxing the people in this country at a time when there's inflation. They are making it worse. They have introduced the Brave Davis inflation, which is worse than the world's inflation.
The scope of the investigation into the food program is unclear, but the Prime Minister has said the program lacked oversight. Dr. Minnis has praised the program, adding that the NGOs and food stores that partnered should be praised as well. Since being questioned earlier this year, Dr. Minnis says he hasn't been contacted again in relation to the matter.
If they want to question me, they can question me. They know the facts. The facts are Cabinet approved the individuals, Cabinet approved the budget, and that was the end. The politicians would have had no involvement whatsoever after that. The conclusions are sent to the various ministries, and that is it.
Lastly, do you?
And that is all any politician can say to them.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Bethany McDermott.
Thanks, Bethany. Well, the latest figures of the country's tax revenue arrears released by the Department of Inland Revenue today, showing a slight dip in billion-dollar figures revealed last year. During a compliance and enforcement press conference this morning, officials discussed the future of tax collection and penalties. Our Marlena Leonard was there.
While the ease of doing business may have been the priority of the past, the Department of Inland Revenue says times have changed and we're now in the season of enforcement.
The department has really started, or I should say stepped up, its enforcement campaign.
The department previously announced that outstanding taxes amounted to over $1 billion. Since they've started cracking down on suspected offenders, new numbers released today reveal they've been able to bring the number down to $875 million so far. Acting Controller in the Department of Inland Revenue, Shunda Strawn.
It is critical now because as the country moves in a particular direction and our expenses increase, we need the revenue in order to satisfy those expenses.
They discussed some of their powers of enforcement today, including freezing bank accounts, getting warrants to search and seize businesses' records and assets, getting third-party data from banks and wholesalers, and power of sale. There are several fixed penalties associated with tax fraud and evasion, and the acting controller says if the issues persist,
we don't want the government to suck us dry, and so what I'm saying is what we should do is pay what we are obligated to pay, because I don't think any of us want to see us go to those levels where additional taxes are added. What I ask is everybody just be real, be honest. Are you paying your share of taxes? Each of us, we all, riding the roads, sending our kids to schools. We always talking about the hospital, right? And so where does that money come from? It comes from us.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Meantime, Strawn says 9 Harbor Island businesses are being audited. This after Our News broke the story of the Department of Inland Revenue sweep of several businesses on that island last week.
We did some investigations in Harbor Island. We're not done. But so far, we know that in terms of revenue, it's probably over $3 million for the businesses that we have started to review. And I'm saying it like that because the audits are ongoing. The audits are not done for those businesses as yet. We're still in the midst of gathering data.
3 other businesses on mainland Eleuthera are also being audited in addition to the 9 on Harbor Island. But the acting controller says the exercise is not limited to the area.
You talked about some businesses in the press, but there were even more businesses that we are looking at. Some of them started to, come in after we did the initial investigations that we had, which was actually previously done, not during the time that all of you reported on. So we went to Harbor Island. We had visits prior to the actual, you call seizure that actually took place. So there's still more going on the island of Eleuthera and other family islands as well.
Nearly 60 foreigners have been taken into custody for violating the bounds of their work permits from a construction site that saw little Bahamian employment. The revelation comes amid a crackdown on work permits. Bethany McDermott has the details.
I believe it is important to specifically warn contractors and other businesses who employ persons on work permits, get your house in order.
That stern warning from Immigration Minister Keith Bell after he revealed 56 foreigners were found on a construction site in a gated community in eastern New Providence. Bell says they were operating outside the scope of their work permits. Bell also revealing the foreigners outweighed Bahamians on the site 3-1.
In one swoop, 56 foreign nationals were taken into custody, leaving a mere 20 Bahamian workers on that site. The findings of investigations revealed all of the persons had been issued work permits. Secondly, all of the persons were working outside the scope and terms of their work permit.
Additionally, Bell says the workers were unlawfully being paid dramatically lower salaries than they should be paid.
A large number of persons were unlawfully paying dramatically lower work permit fees by giving incorrect job descriptions such as farm laborers, which attract a fee of $500, when they were highly skilled construction professionals, which attracted a fee of $4,000 to $6,000.
The immigration minister says the matter is under investigation. Over in Abaco, 81 people were found with work permits for New Providence. He also revealed over $90,000 in immigration fees were collected.
Madam Speaker, immigration fees must be paid. Pay immigration its fees. Work permits are obtained by employers, and it is the employer's responsibility to pay the government its fees. Any employer found owing immigration will be required to pay all fees owing and could face prosecution.
There are currently 390 foreigners being housed at the detention center and in immigration safe houses. Reporting for Our News, I'm Bethany McDermott.
The Court of Appeal has reserved its decision on whether it will order a new trial for 2 men who were acquitted of causing a deadly tour boat explosion through negligence. The DPP's office has challenged a decision by a judge to direct the acquittal of Four Seas Adventures founder Clayton Patterson Smith and his captain Roderick Watson on charges stemming from a June 30th, 2018 explosion in Exuma that killed an American tourist and wounded 4 others. Prosecutors argued that the judge erred when she withdrew the case from the jury last November, as there was sufficient evidence for the jury to reach a verdict. By contrast, Muriel DeSeal Casey supported the judge's ruling that the men did not have a case to answer. The pair were jointly charged with manslaughter by negligence in the death of Malika Jackson. Watson, the captain, was charged with negligently causing harm to Jackson's husband, Tyron, Stephanie Schofer, Stacy Bender, and Paul Bender. According to the prosecution's case, the boat was unregistered and unlicensed and uninsured. Watson did not hold a captain's license, and he allegedly allowed an 8-year-old boy to fuel the tour boat. And that weather system we've been tracking leading to continued flooding in areas of New Providence. This video showing beach erosion along portions of West Bay Street. We've got more on how works officials are addressing road woes following wet weather conditions. But for now, we turn things over to meteorologist Greg Thompson with more on our current conditions. Greg?
Yeah, thanks, Megan, and welcome everybody for our first look at weather. We have a lot of moisture still moving across the area. That's courtesy of stationary front at the surface, and we also have an upper level trough that's dipping across us. That's keeping us rather wet. There's also an upper level low spinning out in the Gulf of Mexico. That's also pumping a lot of moisture across us. We will be staying in this wet weather pattern for the next day or two before things start to clear out. At the surface front still extending across the area. A lot of moisture, a lot of showers and thunderstorms. The bulk of it is now moving across South Florida. We are still seeing a couple of isolated showers and thunderstorms across Northwest Bahamas and the Central Islands. We will continue to see that trend throughout the night and into tomorrow. Temperatures around the islands tonight right now, it's 72 in Freeport, 76 in Marsh Harbor, Abaco, 77 in Alistown, Bimini. Over in Great Harbor Key, 75, 77s in Nicholstown, Andros, as well as in Governor's Harbor. And you all have some showers across the area right now. Central Bahamas, 76 in Kemps Bay, as well as in Arthurstown, Cat Island. We pick up 77 in Coburn Town, San Salvador, Deadman's Key, 77. Georgetown, you guys are 78 into the southeast Bahamas. 80 degrees in Duncantown, Ragged Island. 79s in Colonel Hill, Cricket Island, and in Delectable Bay. More 80s in Abrahams Bay, as well as Providenciales, Turks and Caicos Islands, with some showers nearby. Matthew Down in Agua, you round out our temperature profile at 81. That's your first look at weather. Stick with us to look at the extended forecast that's still to come.
Still to come on our news, a pound of marijuana landing a prison guard in police custody. Plus, dabbling in digital currency. The Grand Bahama Chamber explains just how the sand dollar works. And later, plugging potholes. Tonight's work in progress report focuses on wet weather road woes. The story when our news continues.
Original or
it's your thing. Do what you want to do. It's your thing. Do what you want to do. It's your thing. Do what you want to do.
Shareholders are very happy.
It's your thing. Do what you want to do.
A 28-year-old prison officer finding himself on the wrong side of the law after he was arrested at the Bahamas Department of Corrections. Police say the prison guard was allegedly found with marijuana on Tuesday. The drugs weighed 1 pound, 2 ounces, and have an estimated street value of $1,200. Police also seized cash from the officer, believed to be proceeds of criminal conduct. Investigations continue.
This segment of the news is brought to you by H.G. Christie. List your home in Grand Bahama with H.G. Christie. Visit our new office in the Port Lacaya Marketplace. H.G. Christie, celebrating over 100 years of service.
The sand dollar digital currency was rolled out in October 2020, and on April 26, the governor of the Central Bank of the Bahamas is expected on the island of Grand Bahama to provide more information to residents. Director of the Tax and Research Committee for the Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce, Romero Russell, explains how using the sand dollar works once you download the app.
Once it's downloaded, you would go and just go ahead and purchase your sand dollars through the central bank, and voila, you will be able to make purchases and transfer funds. It's like I said, it will be similar to what you do with your mobile banking app now for all the commercial and retail banks. So obviously, you just go on the app, do a transfer, and it will be done in real time.
Russell explains that at this time, each entity must have the Sand Dollar app in order to complete transactions.
They will have to have the accessibility or have the wallet as well too, in order for you to transfer the app to transfer the Sand Dollar to that app. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the capability to do cross banking, where you would go from this Sand Dollar app to, say, an institution, financial institution. So that capability is not there as of yet. I'm not sure if they will be focusing on it later, but right now, no.
Heavy rain can impact commuters not only with impassable flooded roads, it can also cause damage to local roads by creating potholes or expanding existing imperfections. Senior Highway Inspector in the Ministry of Works, Tremaine Delancey, says when the department is considering paving a new road, they look for inconsistencies.
If we find stuff like alligator cracking, it tells us that this area been underwater, so the base is probably failing and affecting the asphalt. We look for things like damaged gauges from traffic, like wrecker drivers. You know, they pull these vehicles with just on the rim of the tire and they gouge out our asphalts. Things like that causes the water to go into the asphalt, get in between where it's supposed to get, and deteriorate asphalt and the base.
That's when the department has to cut that area out and fix it as a temporary patch. But those temporary patches could last longer than intended, as the department paves a road based on the amount of patches and defects.
So a road could be patched very well, or a lot of patches, and we might say, okay, don't have no other defects. We could let it last another 2-3 years. But if those contractors don't patch those roads properly, water can sneak through around the patch area and get into the asphalt or into the base, again deteriorate it, and it'll be a failed asphalt or failed patch.
When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world, as lawyers of former U.S. President Donald Trump asking a judge to delay the start of a sexual assault and defamation trial. Plus, happy birthday Nassau. Coming up in Today in History, find out interesting facts about the historic city center. And later, songs fit for a king. The Bahamas National Youth Choir makes it to the world stage again, this time for the King's coronation concert. The details when our news returns. You're watching Our News. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky calling on world leaders to respond after a video emerged apparently showing a Ukrainian soldier being beheaded by a Russian serviceman. The grainy and extremely graphic video shows a man in military uniform wearing a yellow armband, frequently worn as identifying symbols by Ukrainian soldiers. Zelensky in a video addressing "Everyone must react." This as Ukraine's SBU security service said it was investigating the war crime. The Kremlin called the video awful, saying its authenticity had to be checked. Lawyers of former U.S. President Donald Trump asking a judge to delay the start of a sexual assault and defamation trial until the end of May. They say this will allow a cooling-off period following the historic indictment charging Trump with falsifying business records. Trump has denied the sexual assault in a New York department store dressing room in the mid-1990s. The United States, Panama, and Colombia announcing they will launch a 60-day campaign aimed at halting illegal migration through the treacherous Darien Gap, where the flow of migrants has reached nearly 90,000 in just the first 3 months of this year. The joint statement notes the countries will use new, lawful, and flexible pathways for tens of thousands of migrants and refugees as an alternative to irregular migration. According to Panama's government, more than 87,000 migrants crossed the Darien Gap in the first 3 months of the year, mostly from Venezuela, Haiti, and Ecuador. Meantime, Chile's Congress on Tuesday overwhelmingly approved a bill to reduce the work week from 45 to 40 hours over 5 years, a decision hailed by the left-wing government as a breakthrough for workers' rights. The measure passed the lower house 127 to 14 after being unanimously approved by the Senate 3 weeks ago. It was the second time Chile has reduced its work week. The first was in 2005 when it was cut from 48 to 45 hours. Still to come in our news, today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was April 12th, including the fire that put Portis-Key vendors' livelihoods in jeopardy, plus the National Youth Choir to take the world stage in a concert fit for a king. And then in our news at 7:30, the Privy Council ruling that will fix timing of deportations. That's coming up when our news returns. Welcome back. It's now time to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was April 12th. Take a look. On this this day in Bahamian history, in 1695, Charlestown on New Providence was officially laid out and renamed Nassau by proprietary Governor Nicholas Trott. The Historical Society notes the town was renamed in honor of King William III of England, who was also Prince of Dutch House of Orange, Nassau. Then in 1903, Timothy Gibson was born in Savannah Sound, Eleuthera. Gibson was a composer, songwriter, and educator, and is best known for composing March On, Bahama Land, the national anthem of the Bahamas. On April 12, 2012, developers of the billion-dollar Bahama property on Cable Beach announced the completion of piling, setting the 30-foot deep foundation for the 4 mega hotel structures.
This is the first step. This basically gives us our foundation to sit on, and then up from that comes what you'll see behind us is a 17-story hotel.
And finally, on this day in 2021, stalls and boats were destroyed on Potter's Key following an early morning blaze at the popular locals and tourist hub. Firefighters were on the scene shortly before midnight as buildings on the eastern side of the dock were engulfed. This as smoke billowed across Paradise Island Bridge.
It's overwhelming. It's devastating to see what you put into something, your life, your life savings, the memories, and then now you have staff unemployed.
Insurance will not take no money for a wooden structure on this dock. So we got a great loss.
We'll do a careful assessment. We'll hear from the vendors. I will have discussions with my colleagues. I don't control the purse of the Bahamas, as you are fully aware. And so we'll have a candid discussion, and we will do our best to assist.
The Bahamas National Youth Choir getting the opportunity of a lifetime yet again. This time, the choir will travel to London next month to sing in a concert in commemoration of the King's coronation. Our Sasha Lightborn has the story.
The Bahamas National Youth Choir will be very busy over the next few weeks. They're preparing, just like everyone else, for the 50th Independence celebrations. But before that, it's the King's coronation, scheduled for next month. The choir has been selected to be part of a large Commonwealth choir, which will sing at the King's coronation concert. Here's Bahamas National Youth Choir Director, Dexter Fernando.
It's a privilege, definitely, and it's overwhelming. There are some tight deadlines to get the product done and sent to the British Broadcasting Network. But we are humble to do this work at this time and to represent the country.
Now, when it comes to what the choir plans on singing, Fernando says,
it's private and confidential. We have some documents that we've signed. So we just asking Bahamians to either do a watch party on the 7th of May and be close to the television, and when the Bahamas is on the screen, celebrate #Bahamas National Youth Choir.
We also spoke to 2 of the choir members about the awesome opportunity.
It's such a wonderful opportunity to just be able to represent your country, and traveling to London I'm really looking forward to it.
I consider it to be one of the best things I'll probably ever get to do in this lifetime, especially in my musical career. But definitely, I am so honored to be a part of such an, like you said, an auspicious occasion. And I see it as truly a milestone, even being such a young person in the choir, being able to make history and represent my country so well.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Sasha Lightborn.
Thanks, Sasha. Now, to watch that story again and for all of today's top stories, be sure to visit ournews.bs. That does it for Our News at 7. Joining us now is our Jamila Mizik with the latest headlines. Now, Jamila, I am so jealous of those kids that they get to go to London for such an amazing opportunity. I played the bells, never really shy in singing. What about you?
Listen, I am no singer, but I'm sure it's going to be an honor. Cannot wait to hear them. Thanks, Megan.
Awesome.
We are following the crisis in Haiti as the Prime Minister is planning a meeting with international leaders and find out the jail time for a father who neglected his 2 sons. Here are your latest headlines.
Tonight on Our News, moving towards a resolution in Haiti, the Prime Minister prepares to meet with Haiti's opposition. A father jailed for neglecting his 2 sons. Hear the disturbing details from his sentencing today. speech to text, just one of the latest features in the new and improved digital recording system in the court. Our Jasmine Brown has the exclusive with the Chief Justice in his first sit-down television interview. And later, for over 3 decades, the Bahamas Bridal Show has been creating happily ever after moments.
At the time, we didn't think about starting in those.
At Doctor's Hospital, our lamp just got brighter. The Loyalty Advantage membership program now has 3 unique plans to choose from. From Lamp Prepaid with free prime care visits and service line discounts, Lamp Insured with copay waivers and 0 upfront collections at the ER and inpatient services, or our new Lamp Access, a free plan that offers 10% off labs, pharmacy, and imaging. Lamp has a plan for everyone. To sign up, visit our website or give us a call. Doctor's Hospital, trusted and best care now.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Jamila Missick in for Italia Hall. The Prime Minister is planning a meeting with international stakeholders, including members of the opposition in Haiti, to discuss the ongoing issues that plague that country. Our Joshua Williams has the details.
As chair of CARICOM, Prime Minister Philip Davis says a meeting with stakeholders will help to seek out solutions for the ongoing crisis in Haiti. Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell telling reporters the Prime Minister has begun meeting with foreign diplomats to formulate a plan in the lead-up to that meeting.
The American Undersecretary of State for Western Hemisphere, who's the man who's in charge of U.S. policy toward the region, Brian Nichols, was here on Monday, had a meeting at the National Stadium with the Prime Minister and public officials here in the Bahamas with a view to seeing where that project is now going.
Mitchell also had this to say about who will be sitting at the table.
We've spoken to opposition figures in Haiti. Several of them have agreed to a meeting outside of Haiti. We're trying now to fix a date. We're also trying to broaden the numbers of people who are participating in such a meeting. We agreed that we ought to draft something that plots a plan going forward to see whether there can be an agreement on that. We're not yet there on all of these various issues, but there's been some progress.
As for where those meetings will take place,
possibly in Kingston, Jamaica, maybe Nassau. So there have been ongoing discussions about trying to get that together.
Mitchell says more will be revealed soon about those meetings. Reporting for Our News, I'm Joshua Williams.
A recent Privy Council ruling will put the Bahamas in a stronger position to quickly deport individuals from the Bahamas, according to Immigration Minister Keith Bell. Last week, the Privy Council heard a case between the Attorney General and Douglas Ngumi. The issue: if the government was lawful in detaining Ngumi on the basis that they were arranging his deportation, and if so, was 3 months a reasonable period. The Court of Appeal found that in some respects, the trial judge had erred in the assessment of damages and increased Ngumi's award to $750,950 plus additional interest.
I am satisfied that this ruling and the changes which will come, which may be enacted as a result of the ruling, will put us in a much stronger position in expeditiously deporting persons who have no legal basis to remain in this country.
Bell says immigration officials have already started assessing existing laws to see how they can be strengthened.
Whilst the case highlighted the need for legislative clarification, it reinforced our ability to determine the process by which persons are repatriated under the Immigration Act. The department has already begun reviewing the sections which require legislative clarification and work with the Office of the Attorney General to determine the next steps.
A 42-year-old man has been jailed for 1 year for endangering lives of his sons, ages 2 and 6. The man, whose name has been withheld to protect the identity of the children, pleaded guilty to 2 counts of child cruelty at his arraignment before Senior Magistrate Cara Turnquest DeVoe on Tuesday. The charges stem from incidents that took place on April 10th. Around 4:30 a.m. on the day in question, a motorist took the 2-year-old boy to the Cable Beach police station after he was almost knocked down by another driver on West Bay Street. Police later went to Saunders Beach, where they found the child's father asleep in his truck along with 3 other young children. The father was instructed to bring the children to the Criminal Investigation Department on University Boulevard. However, the man left his 6-year-old son unattended in the vehicle. The child shifted the gear on the truck and it crashed into the customs building wall on University Boulevard. Magistrate Turnquest DeVoe has ordered social services to take all 4 of the man's children into their custody in hope that they are placed with a family member. In just over a week, the judiciary will relaunch the digital court recording system, which officials say will not only modernize the courts, but also make it more efficient. Our Jasmine Brown recently sat down with the Chief Justice about the importance of the state-of-the-art technology.
The Chief Justice telling me just how the digital recording system will impact the judiciary and cases that come before the courts.
The expectation is that when it's relaunched, all the courts in the province, save for 5 civil courts, which we hope to be outfitted by mid-June, will have the digital court reporting.
The digital recording system was first installed in courts 5 years ago thanks to assistance from the United States Embassy in Nassau, but the process began back in 2015. Today, more than 30 magistrates and Supreme Courts in New Providence, Grand Bahama, and Abaco are outfitted with the system.
We're greatly assisted by the National Center for States Courts and INL, the International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Agency, with the U.S. Embassy. They've provided us with experts and over the last 2 years or so, there have been periodic training.
Surian says this latest version of the system will include the speech-to-text feature.
Judicial officer can get a rough copy of the transcript, which will be available almost immediately in that context. So all the delays in terms of getting appeals, all the delays in terms of getting transcripts back to have closing submissions. Hopefully that will be a thing of the past and we can speed up.
And if you're wondering how court stenographers will be impacted, Sir Ian says they will still have a role to play.
It's a rough draft that we'll get with the speech-to-text, but ultimately a stenographer will be in the background to finalize what the record looks like. Yeah, this is really part of our push to get a complete e-court.
The official launch event is slated for April 21st. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Thanks, Jasmine. The wet weather expected to continue over the next few days. With a look at the current conditions is meteorologist Greg Thompson with your first look at temperatures.
Yeah, thanks, Jamila, and welcome back, everybody, for our second quick check on weather outside our studios. Intermittent clouds with some showers nearby. Temperature comfortable 76, with still a bit of breezy conditions outside. Your winds out of the east at 18 miles per hour, and your feels-like temperature is at 73. Stuck in this wet weather pattern, we have that stationary front still across the Bahamas. Lots of showers and thunderstorms affecting us. We will continue to see that trend throughout the night and into tomorrow. Some of these showers will be heavy and thunderstorms will be strong to severe at times, so make sure you prepare accordingly. That's a quick check on weather. Stick with us and look at your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on Our News, a glimpse into what could be an alternative to the Royal Caribbean development on Paradise Island Beach from the man who will not give up his dream to develop the area around one of the oldest lighthouses in the country. Local courier companies are under the microscope after allegations of underreporting tax revenues. They built it and now they are ready to repair it. The Chinese government says it will help to repair the National Stadium. That's coming up when Our News returns.
children.
The oldest lighthouse in the Bahamas could be restored and transformed into a cultural site. That's according to entrepreneur Toby Smith, who revealed the big plan he has for the historical site that's at the far west of the island. The property is home to the oldest lighthouse in the Bahamas, and according to Smith, his plan is to restore it to its 1800s style. Here's that report.
It's our plan to fully restore it back to its 1817 glory, so that as ships and boats come into Nassau Harbor, the gateway to the Bahamas, that they're going to see that we really do take care of our historical buildings, and it's going to be a great first impression for people coming to the Bahamas.
But that's not all. Smith says the lighthouse also serves as a beacon of light and salvation, not just for seafarers, but those on land. The area also has a structure that was once the lighthouse keeper's quarters. The last keeper lived in the space in 1968.
We're looking to fully restore the keeper's quarters back to how it was before, with the same 1817 type of fixtures and furnishings and whatnot, and then to build a modern building next door that will look exactly like the original building but have modern amenities on the inside. So you can get yourself a burger, a beer. We'll have a dock so that you could come over safely and be able to have a cultural experience and a historical tour of our oldest lighthouse.
But the area to remember, according to Smith, will be the restroom with a view.
Originally there was an outhouse, yes, but the bathrooms are going to be the most spectacular bathrooms because of their view. So as you use the bathroom, you'll be able to have a beautiful view of the beach and of the ocean. So there's various things that we want to do to keep this place special.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
The Department of Inland Revenue cracking down on the courier industry after suspicions of misreporting and outstanding taxes. Acting Controller in the Department of Inland Revenue, Shonda Strawn, explains.
It's because we've noticed a trend where we know business is really heightened for the couriers. They're collecting more revenue, but we're not seeing that reflected in what they were remitting. So we did do an exercise where we halted shipments, or we stopped the release of goods until some couriers kind of settled their accounts, especially VAT accounts. Some businesses went on payment plans, which is fine.
The acting controller also gave an example about concerns surrounding businesses closing with money owed to the government and reopening under a different name.
Another concern was businesses closing, shutting down, not having paid their taxes, and starting up again as something different, right? As in the same nature, but as maybe a different name, right? And so if you have a business that has been operational previously, in previous years, closed, owing the government a substantial amount in the millions of dollars, then reopened in that same nature and is continuing on that trend, then it is a concern and it is something that we have to act on.
Social Services Minister and Member of Parliament for West Grants, Bahama and Bimini, Obi Wilchcombe, providing an update on those residents impacted by the two fires recently. He says that the ministry is taking active steps, such as formulating reports to repair those homes and return residents to some sense of normalcy. Wilchcombe further explained that the government is reaching out to insurance companies to assist Bahamians on family islands with getting insurance.
One of the difficulties we have with the islands is a lack of insurance, and we have to do something about that. Speak with the insurance companies or find a way to ensure that individuals who own homes are able to have their homes insured, because once tragedy comes, and it could be a natural disaster, it could be almost anything, the truth is they're left wanting, and they are sometimes left demoralized, and so we have to do our best to assist.
Wilchcombe also commenting on the issue of a lack of fire trucks and the maintenance of those on the family islands. He says that resources such as fire trucks and ambulances are the responsibility of local government.
The truth is we need more, but here's another issue that we have. Fire engines in the Family Islands, local governments are responsible for, and so that's where you have the disconnect sometimes, because who should be maintaining the vehicle? So we have to find a way to ensure that the process works more smoothly, because in Bimini the other day, the issue came down to simply 3 batteries were needed for the fire engine.
The Bahamas has been without a United States ambassador since Nicole Avant left office in 2011. Since then, 4 chargés d'affaires have been appointed, with Usha Pitts currently serving in that position. Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell says while he welcomes the opportunity of a new ambassador, he is pleased with the job that Pitts is doing.
It's taken quite a long time, but we have an effective leader here in the Chargé. Relations between the 2 countries working well. Whenever an ambassador comes, we look forward to welcoming him here in the Bahamas.
Mitchell hinting that the process of choosing a new ambassador can be influenced by politics.
There has to be a Senate hearing. Those things are quite complicated given the internal politics of the U.S. at the moment. But as I say, relations are good, things operate well, and we figure when an ambassador comes, we're happy to welcome that person.
When Our News comes back from the break, an offer to help repair the National Stadium from the country that helped to build it.
The president of an important international sporting body offered his profuse praise for the Bahamas, and sailing is officially declared our country's national sport. Don't go anywhere, our sports is next.
They've been helping to make dreams come true for brides and grooms for over 30 years, but the Bahamas Bridal Show is so much more than a wedding showcase. We have the details when Our News returns. This is Our News. Welcome back. The Chinese government will assist with repairs to the Thomas A. Robinson National Stadium. That's according to Chinese Ambassador Dai King Li, who says they've been engaged in positive discussions with getting the repairs started. As for how much those repairs will cost, she says that's to be determined.
We have received the project proposal from the Bahamas government in August last year, and in that proposal they proposed a certain scale of funding that is needed. And we are now in China, we're now going through the process of looking at the scale of the project and looking at the funding that is necessary. So this process is still ongoing. So the scale of work, the scope of work, and also the funding scale will be determined as we progress with these approval procedures.
Some last-minute repairs were made to the National Stadium before hosting the hundreds that attended the 50th annual Carifta Games last weekend. The Chinese ambassador says they are committed to renovating the stadium.
We are sorry to see that the stadium is not in perfect state because of lack of maintenance for the past 7-8 years and for various other reasons. So we are very keen to work with the Bahamas government to fully renovate this stadium and to present a new and world-class facility for the Bahamian people.
Today's sports update is sponsored by Corona, distributed in the Bahamas by Jimmy's Wines and Spirits.
Meantime, Carifta gets high praise from the World Athletics president, and sailing is officially declared our national sport. Tej Adderley is up next with Our Sports.
Hello, Jamila. Welcome to Our Sports. The Bahamian centuries-long tradition of nautical excellence was officially codified as sailing was named our national sport. The resolution was made in the House of Assembly today by Minister of Agriculture, Marine Resources, and Out Island Affairs, the Honorable Clay Sweeting, himself an avid mariner. Here's what he had to say.
As sailing has been and will always be a part of who we are as Bahamians. For centuries, Bahamians have been known as masters of the sea. Bahamians have evolved the sport of sailing as it plays an integral part of our culture.
We were able to speak to the president of World International Association of Athletics Federation, Sebastian Coe, about track and field in the Bahamas and the Caribbean. Here's what he had to say.
This is an island that understands track and field preeminently. Pauline Davis was my colleague on the World Athletics Council for many years, so if I wasn't fully aware of how important track and field is in the Bahamas, then she reminded us on the hour.
Coe also spoke about the World Relay Games returning to the Bahamas, shouting out Golden Girl Pauline Davis-Thompson for the instrumental role she played.
Now we're back, and I'm really delighted, and Pauline Davis was hugely important in making sure that we got the games, the relays in place as a first edition, and I'm delighted that the Bahamian government has come to the table and been really supportive in wanting to bring them back to the island.
Coe sang praises for the Carifta Games, saying that more regions have staged similar events.
At World Athletics, we treat them very seriously. They're a part of the development program. I want to see them grow. I want to see them become even more central in the development of young athletes. And I would like other area associations to look at them as a template, as a model going forward.
That's very high praise from a four-time Olympic medalist. That was your look at sports. I'm Tej Adderley. Back to you, Jamila.
Still ahead on Our News tonight, they are a household name and one of the hottest social events on the calendar. More than 40 wedding suppliers and event planners are gearing up for the event this weekend. And more rough weather is on the way tonight for the northern Bahamas. Greg is back with the extended weather forecast, telling us what we can expect overnight. That's coming up when Our News returns. Welcome back to Our News. Greg is back in the Weather Center with your evening forecast. Greg?
Yeah, thanks again, Jamila. Welcome back, everybody, for our final check of weather. We are still stuck in this wet weather pattern. We have that frontal boundary still stationary across the northwest and central Bahamas. That's attached to a low-pressure system well out there in the open Atlantic, and another one across the Gulf of Mexico. We expect the second low to track towards the northeast over the next couple of days. That will eventually drag this cold front, well, stationary front actually, towards the north, but we will still see some more showers and thunderstorms in the forecast as that system continues to pull away to the north, away from us. Future forecast showing a lot of moisture across area, and that's this afternoon at 3 o'clock. We start this chart in motion. That will continue to provide us with some more showers and some isolated thunderstorms through Thursday, and as I mentioned, that frontal boundary will continue to pull towards the north, and eventually by Friday into Saturday we look for some clearing, but still a couple of isolated showers expected, but that frontal boundary should be to the east and well away from us. Boating forecast for the northwest and central Bahamas tonight through tomorrow. We expect those small craft caution conditions to continue. High risk, rip currents. The winds will be southeast to south at 15 knot, seas running 3 to 5 feet, but up to 7 feet in some northeasterly swells. Your low tide will be at 7:26 tonight. For the central and southeast Bahamas, caution flag for you guys down there as well. East to southeast winds at 15 knots, seas running 3 to 5, but up to 7 feet in some northeasterly swells. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your extended forecast, the wet weather will stay with us for at least one more day. We start to see some clearing, but we do expect the second front to get near sometime by Saturday into Sunday, so we could see a couple isolated showers, but temperatures will be back into the mid to upper 80s by the beginning of next week. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe night, everybody.
All right, thanks, Greg. The Bahamas Bridal Show is more than just a trade show focused on wedding day needs. Our Jean Joseph takes a look at 33 years of the Bahamas Bridal Show and what they have planned this weekend.
I don't care what anyone says. There's only one Bahamas Bridal Show.
The Bahamas Bridal Show has become a household name and a social event attracting hundreds of Bahamians who gather to see more than 40 wedding suppliers and event planners and win cash and prizes. Since 1990, Buttons Bridal and Formal Wear has put on a show, showcasing everything for weddings, proms, and other special events with a variety of vendors who offer cake, food, and champagne sampling, wedding demonstrations and games, and a fashion show featuring formal wear and gowns, honeymoon clothing, and lingerie.
We have the best fashion show on this side of heaven.
This year, one lucky bride will win everything for her dream wedding with a selection of gifts from every exhibitor at the show, according to show coordinator Makiva Wallace.
We brag about giving away $30,000 in prizes, and this year, the 33rd annual Bahamas Bridal Show will not disappoint. We have honeymoon stays that we give away. We have wedding gowns that we give away. We have tuxedos that we give away. We even have monies toward homes.
Wallace says despite the name, the show is for anyone looking to throw a memorable event.
You plan parties, photographers, videographers. These are all things that you need for any event that you're planning, not only a wedding.
It all goes down 2 p.m. Sunday, April 16 at Bahamas Grand Hyatt Convention Center. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jean Joseph.
Thanks, Jean. Thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Jamila Mizik. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.